there, boys and girls. Welcome to this pollen-filled day in Los Angeles. We sound a little stuffy. Blame the Santa winds or whatever the hell's going on here. This week, taking a break from How Low Can We Go, because when a new film just hit HBO Max, it'll be seen in theaters thanks to Omicron. Guillermo del Toro's Nightmare Alley.
Yes, and we had reviewed 1947's Nightmare Alley on our only solo episode, sadly, whatever happened, because we loved the original one so much. So we've been looking forward to this movie for a long time. We love Guillermo del Toro.
You did a great job on the solo episode. I was very sick. I was dry heaving.
Right.
It felt like
now we're talking about pollen. Come on,
dude. The worst part about dry heaving is it feels like you did like 2,000 crunches.
This is so appropriate for the movie at hand. And no, it really is. And yes, that's true.
Okay, so you were a big fan of the 1941.
The world's biggest fan, yes.
How does it compare? Right off the bat, like that?
Right, okay. And you have still not seen the original one, so you're coming into this fresh.
I'm fresh.
And right, and I'm excited. And you are also a huge fan of Guillermo del Toro. Okay, so
yes.
I was just setting a table where we were coming at from. I was rooting so hard for this movie, because there, I'm not a reboot, remake, are gonna fail kind of person. Obviously, that's dumb. Anyone who's seen the thing knows that that's a dumb argument, right? So, and if anyone could do it, it would be Guillermo, who clearly loves the original movie even more than I do.
Right.
But it's not even close. It's an atrocity, honestly. And I'm in comparison to the original. If the original didn't exist, if I was just dealing with this as a movie at hand, it's a pretty damn good movie. But compared to the original, it's a disaster. So I don't know what to tell you about that.
Well, it's interesting because before you came over, I wanted to see if there was like any articles about it, and Del Toro himself said that this is a big departure. He compared it to Crimson Peak, where people were expecting a horror movie, but it was a gothic romance.
Right.
Especially with the title like Nightmare Alley with Guillermo del Toro's name attached to it. You expect, a lot of creatures.
So is he saying, you're telling me that he's saying people expect it from him, not from the source material?
Yes.
He's not saying that there were Nightmare Alley fans and he's doing a change up on the Nightmare Alley fans. He's saying there's Guillermo del Toro.
With his name attached.
There's an expectation for what he'll deliver.
Creatures, monsters, that kind of stuff.
And clearly because this is the world's greatest horror noir and he's not known for that, he's predicting that fans would... right, okay, that makes sense. That's not why I hate it, but that does make sense.
Well, it's interesting because I didn't like Crimson Peak at first. And then we rewatched it and I was like, oh, it's not that bad. So I'm wondering if like a little...
is this a grower?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, everyone didn't really like the movie last night.
Right. Correct.
But there was a lot. I'll be honest with you, man. Like this
is what I want to hear.
I get why you guys didn't like it, and I'm not sure I'm sold on.
I have a whole different reason for not liking it than the other two people don't like. It. They didn't like it because they thought it was slow and boring and badly.
They thought it was they thought the dialogue was pretty bad, like life,
corny, or
life happened to me. You're like,
right.
There were some things on there that. Because everyone was talking about like, oh, this is bad. I'm sitting there like, there were some things I kind of liked about it. So there was 2 times in the movie. I thought the atmosphere, at me and atmosphere. The atmosphere of this movie is spot on.
Can we talk about this just real quick before you tell us both of the things? Because I knew this was going to happen to you. I knew it was going to happen to you before we watched it. Because the thing about the original Nightmare Alley is there aren't a lot of noir set in carnival settings, right? They're all big city, crime kind of looking like concrete jungles, looking kind of imagery, right? So, but the atmosphere in the original is like David Lynch-esque, but it's in a normal movie, so you don't notice it. But it feels like Carnival of Souls-ish. It has its own really unique atmosphere. And he does that in here. So that part of this movie is awesome.
Yes.
Right? So I knew you were going to love that part because when do you get that kind of vibe from Hollywood? A big budget adult movie with a great cast, looking amazing, set in this kind of setting. You never see these visuals. So it's a unique opportunity. It's a unique world. And I was like, I know Nick is going to love being in this unique world, right? So go.
That I dug.
Right.
The sound design, and this ties into the atmosphere. I thought the sound design was really well done, especially like anytime Carlisle was talking about his dad's watch. Yeah, you would start. You slowly would hear like this
So good.
tick start to fade in, and it would fade in, fade out, fade out. They did it. I think there was 2 moments in the movie where they did that. But also the sound design of like the rain.
Yep.
And the snow. There was 2 moments where I closed my eyes and I just listened to like how the movie sounded.
Yeah.
Right. Because I thought it was shot great, but so the first time I closed my eyes was when Bradley Cooper was in Toni Collette's like little house the day after they did their first thing.
Okay.
And it's like super well lit in the house, but
Yep.
then outside it's just downpouring rain. And the way it just sounds is it's relaxing.
Totally.
I was like, oh my God, this is so great. And then the second, well, before I get to the second part, you and I both, and I didn't say this, but you mentioned it, and I was like, that's so crazy. I thought the same thing. We both had Batman Return feels in this movie. Where did you get your Batman Return?
I don't remember now. I remember it happened
because I know exactly where mine.
Where was yours? Maybe it'll spark.
It was in my
memory.
second part where I closed my eyes and just listened to it.
Okay.
To the movie, and I thought it was great. It was when Toni Collette was giving Bradley Cooper's character, which she was getting all the information from. I forget what she called her little thing when she was having him lie down and talk.
Oh, okay.
About,
When she was doing, okay, got it. Right.
Yeah.
She was doing therapy.
she was given like a therapy session,
Right.
and just very in and out of the scene, you hear like the howling of the wind and like the snow falling.
Right.
And there's actually a sound design part.
That's an amazing scene.
There's a sound design part in the movie that I thought was actually genius. So she was asking him questions about his father and his life and sort of picking his brains apart. And then there's a moment where she asks him a question that he doesn't want to answer because it's sort of like the moment where she has her hooks like in his mind, and it just goes completely silent. And then boom, the sound comes right back, and then that's when Bradley Cooper's character starts freaking out and be like, I don't want to talk about this, I don't want to do this and that.
It reminded me a lot of the teacup stuff in Get Out.
Yeah.
How it felt, because her power, his power is that he can read and con people. Her power is that she can make her con come real in your head.
Yeah.
She like hypnosis sort of, right? She's drawing information out of you and using it to pin you down with. It was kind of horrifying to watch in action. It was cool, and it's cool in the original. But yeah, so that the pacing of it, the key, the sound of that teacup in Get Out, and the way just a really light, tiny sound got terrifying all throughout that scene reminded me of how they were paced the same.
It was wonderful. And also just anytime there's like, I always think snow in a movie always makes it look good.
It was a beautiful shot. It's a beautifully shot movie in general.
Yeah, I don't know, man. So like, this is a weird one.
Well, let me set this up, okay? So, sadly, this movie failed me in 2 sentences. It literally just took 2 sentences for this movie to fail me. And relative to the original, right? So, what's happening here is that both movies are showing you the same things at the same times, relatively, right?
Okay.
You could do the Wizard of Oz, Dark Side of the Moon thing, play them side by side, and you'd be getting the same kind of imagery, giving you the same kind of emotions, horrifying or uplifting or whatever at the same times. But the second movie is always telling you what it thinks the first movie meant.
Oh, yeah.
When it was showing it to you. And that additional thing is where this movie train wrecks, right? So watch this. The geek, which is a huge, important part of both movies, right? The narrative of them and kind of the meaning of them. The geek's never really explained in the original Nightmare Alley. They explain what a geek is, but they don't explain what it means or what the metaphor is or anything like that.
Right.
Leave it to the second movie. They're just going to tell you a million times what it means, right? So in the second movie, the geek is like in the cage just muttering over and over and over again, I'm not like this. I'm not like this. Which is really what the meaning of the geek in the first one was, is that everyone thinks the geek is some horrifying freak, but it's us. Like, it's just us broken down, right? Like you could end up there, and that spoiler, that's going to happen, right? So I'm not like this. Yeah, you are, right? Is the point. But it's said out loud 12 times in the new movie and never said out loud in the other one. What the old movie did was, at the end, when they offer Tyrone power by the same the same patter, the same lines, like, oh, I did think of a job. Just, I'm not asking you to take it, if you just need work or whatever. And you slide into the pattern that ropes you in to become the geek, right? So Tyrone Power's in there. He's like, oh, you have a job. That's great. And he goes, do you know what a geek is? And he looks at him and he goes, Mister, I was born for this. And the way he plays it and the way the original movie means it is he just realized he thought he was above everybody else the whole time. I can con people. A sucker's born every minute. I'm not part of the suckers. When he said I was born for this, he realized I'm a sucker too. We're all suckers. It just clicked for him. I was born for this because I'm just everybody. I'm just you, me. We're all born for this. We're all suckers. There is no one that gets to sit above and never be a sucker. That's so much better than just having someone lurk around in a cage 12 times telling you what he means out loud. I'm not like this. I'm not like this. I'm not like, I know.
Well, also
right?
The ending of how Bradley Cooper played it off. He just like laughed maniacally for like
right.
45 seconds.
Right. Because he's doing the broken, like Joaquin Phoenix Joker, thing that now has to happen in every movie. But that's just amplifying what the original movie did so much more elegantly, so much more quickly, so much more concisely, right? Without having to tell you the whole time. It just showed it to you and then you had to figure it out.
You know what's interesting about that?
But that's because Guillermo loved it. He wanted to tell you what his interpretation of the movie is, and I get it. Like, I'm doing it now. I'm telling you what my interpretation of his interpretation is, and I'm passionate about it too, right? Like, I get the urge. So I don't hold it against him. And take the original movie away, I still think this movie is pretty damn good. It's just every time it matched with the original movie in an important choice or an element or something, it fell short. It was amazing how consistent it was.
I think I know why it did that.
Why?
Alex and Jenny described it perfectly last night. Okay. The movie feels like a kid telling you a story. He's like, and then
that
then this
pacing,
happened,
yeah, that felt
happened,
true when they said it out loud.
And when you do that, you're kind of just like, I don't know, you're cutting a little bit of your nose off. You know what I mean?
Right.
The
and I don't like. I recommend everybody who wants to experience like a unique world shot really well with an interesting story and unbelievable performances. We haven't even talked about the world's greatest assembled cast yet, right?
That was crazy.
All these performances are amazing. Even Bradley Cooper, which is hard to do because Tyrone Power, like, that was his greatest performance, and he's one of Alex.
And apparently they wanted Leonardo DiCaprio for that role.
That makes sense.
How do you think that would have went? Probably just as good, right? I mean, they're both really
probably
good
just as good for what it was, and probably with the same, mistakes. Maybe I don't know if an actor can save the mistakes in the recipe.
if one actor can save the mistakes, when you have Toni Collette, Cate Blanchett, Rooney Mara, Willem Dafoe,
come on,
and I forget the name of the old guy,
and David Strathairn, like all these people are amazing. I mean, Richard Jenkins, from 6 Feet Under fame, like and Shape of Water. He's in. I mean, he works with a lot of the same people, and they're always amazing.
I like seeing him back in the movie after he was in Shape of Water. But also, I said this last night. I always like it when you can like actors who have acted together in other movies or in the same movie. So like Cate Blanchett and Rooney Mara from Carol were in that one. What did you say his name was? Richard
Jenkins.
And then the old woman who kills herself and her husband. They were the husband and
Mary Steenburgen.
Yeah, they were husband and wife and Step Brothers.
Right.
Every time I see that, I can only think of that.
And you know what's funny is I'm going to keep saying positive things about this movie that I hate. Right. So like also most of the time the movie's trying to one up the original movie. I don't mean it in a bad way. Just like he's trying to express to you like what was great in the first movie. It would fall down, except for one time. There was one great addition that the old movie couldn't have possibly done that was living in the heart of the old movie that you could feel it wanted to show you, but it wasn't allowed. And it's when Mary Steenburgen and her husband, the murder-suicide.
Yeah.
Like that vibe is in the original, but they could have never filmed that then. But it's true to the message of the first one, because the first one's just floating along, giving you that relaxing feeling, giving you that close your eyes, listen to the rain, and then someone dies. like you open your eyes and they're obliterated instantly, or their life or their hopes are crushed, or just like in a stroke. Right? That's it moves like a cobra, the first movie, and this one in that moment did that, and it was true to the first movie. It was awesome. And if all those moves moves had been like that, I would have been so excited. But most of the moves were like, I'm not like this. Or what was the thing that was bugging Jenny and Alex? The one line where the
life happened to me.
Yeah, what happened to you? Life happened to you. I mean, that was straight out of Cruella. I think it was in Cruella. I think that's a line steal from Cruella. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I don't know.
Which, by the way, Cruella did better.
Cruella was a great movie. I like Cruella
in that
quite
moment. It did better than what was happening here.
In fact, they're making a sequel to Cruella. I think they're
not making a sequel.
They're also, you know what else they're making a sequel of? Not to go too far off path, but Scream. It's official.
Yeah, Scream 6.
They were like, you know what? Let's keep milking it. If it ain't broke.
Let's just, because everyone loved Halloween Kills so much, let's just go down that path.
Oh my God. And we still have to see Halloween.
Because this is exactly the pattern. 2018, Halloween came out. The fans, made a ton of money. Whatever the fan reaction was, it just made a bunch of money, and Blumhouse was like, let's, instantly the whole triple, sequel.
Jesus Christ. There were a few scenes that I thought were really well done, no matter how you slice it.
Okay.
I love, and this is one of the scenes that grew on me. As last night I was like feeding the cats, and I just kept thinking about the scene over and over again. But I loved when Bradley Cooper was having steak and eggs with Willem Dafoe, and he was telling them how to get a geek on the hook.
Yep.
I thought that scene was just genius.
That was an incredible scene.
And Willem Dafoe in this movie.
That was an incredible scene. And you know what's funny is that scene is a mirror image of a scene that's missing so they're twin scenes missing each other. So there's a famous moment in the original scene where it's basically just talking. It's like talking for straight 3 minutes. It's like telling a story.
Right.
It's like Ethan Hawke and Denzel sitting across from each other in the table in Training Day. It's like they're just meeting each other and tell me a story. Tell me something about you. You know what I mean? And you get this lengthy story, and that's what happened here. But in the original movie, it's when Tyrone Power reruns his patter on a bunch of drunks, or he thinks they're drunks around him. And while he thinks he's conning them, he goes into this 3-minute patter. He's like dazzling them and hypnotizing, remembering how great he was, even though it looks like crap and his teeth are broken, his ears, but he's just sitting in a pile of crap. But he's like, sounds amazing, right? And he goes, and then he looks up, and they had stolen everything he had and gone. He while he was hypnotizing them, they robbed him blind and left.
Oh my God!
And when he opened his eyes, the master con had been conned, right? But that like pacing of just the action is all happening while there's just a speech happening is just what happened that in this amazing scene in that one. And that's one of the best scenes in Guillermo's movie.
Dude, I don't know. It's weird that like we had such a weird reaction to the movie because like it's super high rated on Rotten Tomatoes. The audience reaction loves it. Towards the end of the movie, I was looking at like what the movie subreddit thought about it. Like they
love it.
Absolutely love it.
Critics mostly like it. It's running into the same financial failure narrative that a lot of these prestige movies are running into, which is almost impossible to escape unless you have a superhero in it.
I thought of something interesting when you said you were coming over, and I was like, what else are we going to talk about? Because like we sort of know how we feel about the movie. It's definitely worth watching. It's not the best Guillermo del Toro movie,
right?
But I was thinking about when we had Tommy McLaughlin over. And he said something, and I think about this not all the time.
You probably mentioned this a couple times now to me.
But it was when he said he was talking to Wes Craven, and Wes Craven said that he was jealous of Tommy because Tommy was at that time, he did Jason Lives, but he did like, I think the total tally is 260,000 TV movies because he just directed everything.
Plus one, which is doing right now.
Plus one. But he said that Wes Craven was jealous of him because he wasn't held to just horror.
Right, he could stray from the genre.
Yeah, so he could do like other kinds of stuff, and he did.
Right.
I do think it's weird that someone told Wes Craven like you can't do a rom-com. Like,
and it's funny because you go watch it play out. You could watch like something like Red Eye, which everyone now recognizes as pretty damn good with some weirdo twist to it, but at the time was just completely rejected. No one wants political thrillers from you, Wes. Go back to your horror corner.
So, but what I was wondering is we kind of do that with Guillermo del Toro.
Okay.
Like what we said afterwards, like Alex was like, there was no creatures, there was no it wasn't like this big fantastical kind
it's like
of
an M. Night
world.
movie without a twist.
Yeah, and so that made me wonder, and this is the discussion was one, is that fair?
Right.
for us to hold Guillermo del Toro.
No, 100% not fair.
And so, like,
No,
but when he doesn't do it, we're like, well,
Right,
where's the creatures? Where's the monsters?
Right, but for me, that argument isn't where I'm at, because for me, I think it's 100% he should do it. He should just do it better.
Right? Yeah. But, there's of course that answer.
Right. But I 100% support. That the movie should exist and that people should try these things. The weird thing is, I always try to think of when I'm watching a movie, what is if you did like the quick, think of a color. Like if you did like took my brain by surprise and like made me answer, what is this movie experience most like? What movie would come up in your head, right? So I'll do it at some point once I'm watching a movie and I feel like I've gotten the vibe of it. I'll be like, all right, like pop quiz, hot shot. What is it? What's the closest movie this movie experience is like? Not what like movie is like, just like your experience of watching it. What's it feel like? And it kept coming up, Gus Van Sant's Psycho. Because I'm like, who is this movie for?
Right.
This movie is for people
Interesting.
who love the original movie so much. They love carnival noirs, of which there's 4, right? They love a little horror with their noir. They love a movie that was so dark at its core that it was banned for decades in tons of places. And you have a really niche thing, and then you basically do a shot-by-shot remake. It's not. There's changes and different.
It's also it's like 40 minutes longer than the original.
It's 40 minutes longer, but basically, it's just taking everything that it thinks was good about the original and giving you those same set pieces, but making them each 5 minutes longer than they were in the original. Right? It's not like there's major changes. It's just like I guess it doesn't matter. That's what's happening here. It's just a bigger, more bloated version of what's in the original, and doing all the explaining for you instead of letting you figure it out.
That part does suck.
Which is unusual for him, because Shape of Water is not like that. Your brain comes to life watching that movie. You have to figure out so many things. Kronos is like that. His work is not like this. Like, I don't know why this happened with this movie, but whatever. I'm in the minority, thank God. Like, at least tons of people are enjoying it.
I was asking Alex, I wonder how many directors' films after they win an Oscar are like this. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like what? I kind of want to do some research afterwards. Like, look at all the best picture winners, and see like what they did next, and if it was like. Well,
see, but what's so interesting here is, that's in the DNA of this movie. Like, Nightmare Alley is a mythological creature, the original one. Like, there are so few examples of this. I talked about it in the original podcast where you have a major actor who's that level of breakthrough, like, loved and important, like Tom Hanks, at the peak of his career, like, kind of name recognition and loved, who decides to make the world's ugliest film written by an author who had the world's blackest heart. Right? And that's taking a big chance. And when Tyrone Power did it in the original, it failed. It failed for him. But it succeeded in posterity. Now it's considered his best film. Now it's considered his best performance. But at the time, it failed and made no money, and audiences hated it, right? So that's a legend in Hollywood. There's only a few stories like that, right? There's like Orson Welles shows up and he's a genius, and then he fucks up for the rest of his life, right? That narrative, that's not true, but that's the arc, right? So you have this famous arc, and now you have Guillermo, who's like, every time I try to make a different kind of movie, I get clobbered, like that. It's like Tyrone. This happened to Tyrone, man, in the movie you love. This is the DNA of the movie you love. It just happened to you, and it happened to him.
But and I've already witnessed that with Crimson Peak a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but that's what this movie was about. He was like, I'm going to take a movie that's about this, but the leopard won't eat my face. But the leopard ate your face too. Leopards eat faces.
So the character of Carlisle.
Yes.
In this movie, they tried to do a handful of things to where you thought he was just scum of the earth, asshole. Mm-hmm. But I never, or at least our viewing party, we never really got that. Like, we never really viewed him as like complete scum of the earth. In the original,
you didn't?
No, I mean, none of us did.
Okay, interesting.
Maybe
no, that's a big change. It's just interesting that it played that way.
Because like they tried to make him bad that he was killing his father, and he said like I've always hated you. But then
they literally start by showing you something bad he did,
and then like what Alex says, like we don't know his father. Maybe his father was like the absolute worst.
Right.
You know, and then like
because it turned out that the very wealthy person that he kills is also the worst.
Yeah, he kind of admits to being like a serial killer.
Yeah, a predator.
Almost. And so like when Carlisle and them like pull one over on him and like murder him and his henchman, who's the dude from Mindhunter who I absolutely love.
Yeah, he was amazing.
When they kill them,
everyone in this movie is amazing.
Everyone is. But when they kill them, I didn't feel bad because that guy's clearly like harming young women.
I know,
and they were just shooting at him.
I know that's so fucked up because that's not how the original or the book is.
But they kept doing things like Carlisle, like he killed his father, and killed these people. But at the same time, it's like
from the original.
But it's like in this movie, good because.
But this is the line. This is so. Nightmare Alley was made, and the film was made in 1947. Okay, and it did the Tony Soprano move like 50 years before The Sopranos. It's just no one noticed because it failed. And but it's that anti-hero the first time we all do it. Every movie's made that way now. Like they're Captain America is dark. Like everyone's evil now, but or has a dark side now or dark origin story or whatever is happening there. I mean, look at the trailer for the Batman. It looks like this black thing on your wall that I'm looking at. It's just like, there's no light at all. Right? This is dark. I don't know. It's the original is my problem here, and it makes me feel bad. It makes me wish that I could go backwards in time and be able to watch Guillermo's first, the Nightmare Alley second, and then maybe read the book.
Well, I can do that. I haven't seen the original.
You totally can.
I could be the lab rat.
I wonder what that experience is like.
Shit, even Ron Perlman and like Rooney Mara.
Ron Perlman was amazing, although. Sorry, nobody cares about the original, so no one's listening to this podcast at this point because I'm sorry. I keep hijacking it to re-talk about the original, which is dumb.
No, I love
which is dumb, but the comparison is the reason why this is so perplexing for me because in the original, when that scene is so meaningful, when Molly, who's getting more and more isolated in the tide of Scarlett Stanton's success, finally reaches out to Xena and the old carnival crew and they come visit her. That scene is so touching in the original movie. You feel like as soon as you see them together, like that's their real family. It feels like Frasier. It feels like fucking Frasier. When they get back together, there's this moment where you're just looking at them sitting at the table and you're like, this is the family unit. This is how it should be. And you there's no way you got that feeling in this movie. There's no way,
dude. As soon as you said that, I thought I saw like the visual of like when
Ron Perlman came back and
he like or Bradley Cooper walks in like he sees them like sitting there. It felt like you knew that they were like I hate this like work family. I hate that
right
white hot passion.
Yes.
You could tell like they were trying to morph that into this movie, but everyone felt sort of singled out in this carnival. So when it got to that scene, it felt like just this ragtag group of people who like they just happened to work together, but it didn't feel like that warmth of like, here is everyone, we're back.
Right.
How great is it to see them?
Right.
She's happy again.
Right. No.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
There's no way you would have gotten that vibe because it wasn't there because that no one cares that those characters came back. No one wanted the movie to leave the carnival.
Yeah, because
in Guillermo's version, in the original one, when you leave the carnival, you want to have left the carnival. In this one, you don't want to leave the carnival. You want to spend all your time there because it's the place where the movie looks like nothing else on earth, like amazingness.
And I will say the way that they tried to make the carnies like feel like family was. All the weight was on Rooney Mara's shoulders because the only way they tried to convey that is like she would like smile and laugh at someone while they did their routine and then walk away. Yeah. So you never got that like family kind of thing. That was like the most effort they gave to it, which is like fine,
right?
Because the carnival looked great. So it was like, I don't need you to do that. This visual is awesome. I love this carnival, but
right. And in the original, Xena is Toni Collette's character is sort of a predator. But it's not really shown and explicit. It's not nearly as explicit as this version, right? And she has authentic affection for Carlisle. That you can tell when he gets a bad tarot reading that she's really trying to warn him from going down this path. Like she doesn't want it to happen, right? Meanwhile, he killed her husband.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's this really complex emotional thing happening in the original. Not here, right?
Yeah.
Not in this one. She attacks him, you know, in a scene where where he's taking a bath or whatever, and then I guess they're a couple, and then they're
she
not
wasn't
a
attacking
couple,
him. She
or whatever. Right. But as I'm saying, is like in this one, everything is just amped up where it didn't need to be, and then there's an interpretation given to you that I don't know was right for the first one.
Yeah, that scene where she pulled the tarot cards for him.
No one cares.
Like it's the upside down hangman,
right?
And he like flipped upside.
Right, and focused in on it, but no one cares.
Yeah, it didn't have the. You know, I haven't seen the original, but from what you described, I could see and feel how they would have played that scene.
Yeah, she turns it over and she's like, "Oh my god, upside down hangman." She's like, "Look, I'm gonna be real with you. This has been fun, but you got to stop. You gotta stop. It's gonna get way too
no more
dark,
with the spooky shows,
way too fast, right? Right, but you can. It's authentic, and in this one, it's just not. It's just like who because the thing is, that's the trouble with handling anti-heroes is nobody cares if some bad things happen to them. If you've just decided you don't care, right? If you just decide, that's a very tricky line to walk.
Do you wonder if that's also the curse of every single person in your movie being an absolute all-star?
Yeah, we were that's an interesting topic. I was trying to think of examples
because the scene we were just talking about, that's Toni Collette giving that thing,
right.
And we're like,
right. That's we were talking about how Hollywood has the tradition of superstar cast failures, and there's a few examples of it, right? But I swear to God, the ones that were popping into my head, at least most recently, were mostly wins, like Knives Out and whatnot. I'm like, where's the best cast that I've seen assembled recently? And they're mostly good movies. Sometimes they're voice actor assemblies. They're the ones that pop into my head. But, this is probably pound for pound the greatest cast in a movie that was aggravating me that I've ever witnessed.
It's interesting. Well, I don't really know where to go now. I mean, it's weird. This is an interesting review because it's like we love it, we hate it, we hate it, we love it.
Yep.
I just don't know where to place it. And maybe I shouldn't place it. Maybe that's the
right.
the appeal of Nightmare Alley is trying not to contain it. It's just kind of this weird Guillermo del Toro movie that's beautiful to look at, has a great cast, great sound design, but aggravating dialogue. Yeah, not as good as the original. Apparently, I need to watch the original.
Yeah,
and the girls got so mad because you were like the ending scene when he was like, "I was."
Yeah, but that's out of context.
I loaded it up, and they were like, "No," and I was like, "But this is fun." They're like, "It's fun for you."
No, they're having what I think of as the Sword of Doom reaction to this movie, where it just gets under their skin and they just.
I love Sword of Doom, so maybe that's why I was excited to look up.
They just absolutely hate it, but it's there's some movies you just hate, But this is, The thing is that it's a shame that any of this was even had to be spoken out loud because movies like this should exist, and movies like this, can be great, especially if they're just like near interpretation. I mean. Sitting here as we're recording this, I haven't seen Scream 5 yet, but the description I've gotten of Scream 5 is that right is just like a good refresh of
not as good as the original, but it gave it enough to where it stands on its own legs. Right. That kind,
which is kind of where I thought the floor was going to be for this movie going into it. And I think maybe that's just the problem I'm having with it is I thought the floor here is so much lower than I thought was possible.
So interested to see how we feel about this a year or two from now.
Yeah.
Because we've already, or at least me personally, where did you land on Crimson Peak? Did you have the same?
So hold on. But I just realized something. This is so weird. There is a movie that is exactly analogous to this, but from the ancient times, right?
Really?
Yeah, exactly. This movie is going to end up in exactly the same place in movie history as this. I am so sure.
What is it? I'm gonna get.
I'm so sure of this. Something Wicked This Way Comes is a Ray Bradbury masterpiece that was turned into a really interesting movie starring Jonathan Pryce way back when he was super young. Gray Sparrow from Game of Thrones. Like, you'd know him the second you saw him. He's been in a billion things. And probably a bunch of Disney things and all kinds of stuff that I can't think of now right now. But Jonathan Pryce, spelled with a Y, like not like Vincent Price. But anyway, so that movie is not well done. It really has a lot of flaws. But every time it comes on screen, I cannot take my eyes off it because it's set in such a really unique world. It's like kind of the brief carnival moments in Us, Jordan Peele's movie, where you're just like, God, that's so cool. And then you leave and you're never back. You're like, oh, I want to spend more time there.
Yeah.
And this movie has so much of that in it. Like I guarantee you, like 10 years from now, if I turn it on and there's a big chunk of like carnival segment ahead, I'll just sit there for 20 damn minutes for a movie that I theoretically don't like. Right? That's what this, because something this week comes is the same exact thing for me. It's just, it looks so goddamn good, but it's so not put together well for some reason.
It's been a while since we felt this way about a movie. It's kind of fun because it doesn't happen very often. No, you know what I mean?
Well, and it makes sense because there's not a lot of movies like this, right? Like, there's a reason that this movie's only been remade once.
Yeah.
Any like legendary properties usually been remade a bunch of times by this point, or talked about, or we all know about it, right? Like, we all know how many goddamn times someone's been trying to make Don Quixote. Hearing that story.
Yeah.
Like, someone's trying to make Don Quixote. Orson Welles' Other Side of the Wind for like 50 years. Everyone was like, it's going to be finished any day now. Like, London After Midnight. Like, we all know these movies, right? Nightmare Alley just sat there from 1947 until Guillermo showed up.
Just blew off the dust. All right, here we go.
Right, nobody else thought this was a good idea to take a run at this. So it makes sense that we would have a weird reaction to a weird effort. But good. Literally, I want the last thing I want to say about this movie on this podcast to be good on him for trying it.
There we go. All right, well, if you liked Nightmare Alley, let us know in a 5-star review on iTunes. That'd be kind of cool. And also, we mentioned it in the last episode, but the book Horror Hotel, is out. Last night we checked; it was number 2 in science or mystery and young adult. One of those categories on Amazon. It hit number 2, so we were like, hell yeah!
I know there were a couple of categories juggling.
And the audiobook is out on Audible.
Oh hell yeah!
And it's really freaking good. Alex and I listened to it when it first released. We were like, oh my God, like we want to hear like voice.
What an experience.
Yeah, because they hired like actual like voice actors to bring her characters to life.
Right.
It was just like not weirdly. I mean, it was emotional because like, writing's a very personal thing. And like hearing because each chapter has like a different actor doing another character. Right. It's like we were just hopping around the chapters listening to these voice actors it's crazy. Like, she was on her laptop with her friend writing a book, and then all of a sudden there's like people putting like effort behind like making it sound like these people are real, and now they are real.
It's got to be an amazing experience, which I've never had, but I always like the analogy that I try to use to get that how that must feel is like if I had an imaginary friend and I went out to the world for my day, like shop or whatever, and everyone could see and interact with my imaginary friend.
Right.
Like, why are you all talking to my imaginary friend all of a sudden? Why can you all see him?
How do you see
And everyone's like, oh, he's awesome. That's great. Like, what's happening?
He made the right choice. Like, you know about his choices?
Right, exactly.
How do you know that?
Like, that feeling has got to be so surreal.
Yeah, so check out the audiobook. I think it's like 6 hours long, and if you like me and you listen to like your audiobooks like sped up, it's like 3 hours.
What's your fastest speed again?
2.8. Like ideally, actually hold on. I can actually hold on. Let me tell you, I can actually pull up my Audible. I'm actually curious because I don't want to list.
You're like stat checking yourself.
No, 2.6 is actually way insane. So like 1.6.
Oh, okay.
Right now I was listening to Will Smith's book and it was 1.2. Well, he also started singing
1.2?
Yeah, because there was a part he was like, he was talking about how they had it doesn't matter. There was a part where they were singing and because it was so sped up, it sounded so choppy and annoying. I was like, oh, okay, well I'll just listen to this part like the way like they recorded it. But anyways, Horror Hotel.
Yes, back to
is out. The cover's amazing.
Get it. It's everywhere. Get it where you get your things. Get it on audiobook for sure.
Get it on audiobook.
That sounds like a great.
I mean, you can get it right. You can exit this podcast on your phone
And get it immediately.
Get it immediately.
I love it.
Oh, and the paperback's on sale too for like $8.99.
Oh shit!
So like either
boom,
boom, either one.
Get all the things.
Yeah, if you got the Audible credit, bam! You got
check into the horror hotel everywhere.
You got $10, bam! You can check in.
I love it.
Until next time, stay scary. Watch a bunch of horror movies.
Read
A bunch of horror books, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye, guys.